Hey guys, what's up? It's MBTI nerd INFJ here. It's really late, but I decided now is probably the time to make this video. I'm still my friend is still over.
Hello.
Yeah, my ANTP friend.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna make this video so that I can set the definitions for the rest of my videos. So you don't have to ask me like, what does this mean, or like, all that stuff. And I'm going to be able to assume that you know what I mean when I'm talking about some things, because I may, I guess, define things a little bit differently. But I'm going to go with a sort of, it's difficult to explain, but it's an introverted intuition thing. Like, because I've been watching a lot of Michael Pierce, and then there's all the other information I've taken in from, what all the, introversion and extroversion and all the functions mean and stuff. So this is basically like a condensed version of all of the stuff that I've learned over a period of like a year. Um, but yeah, so this is as far as I know. I mean, if I'm wrong about anything, please correct me in the comments uh, below. So yeah, let's begin. Introversion and extroversion. Extroversion is a focus on the object, things in reality. Um, when it comes to information, like, well, anything really. But we're talking information just because it's, cognitive functions. But extroversion is a focus on the object, whereas introversion is a focus on the subject. So the objective reality, in a sense, and then the subjective impression of reality. So extroversion would be like the thing, and then introversion is a subjective impression of the thing. So yeah, and then intuition and sensing are perceiving functions, whereas thinking and feeling are the judging functions. And the difference between judging and perceiving is judging is how you judge things, like how you make decisions about things, and that kind of thing. The criteria you base it off of. And then perceiving is how you take in the information that you're using to judge things. So yeah, uh, sensing is a focus on details in the real world, sensory details. In a sense, I don't really know how to explain it better than that, I guess. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm really tired. But yeah, intuition is sort of a focus on ideas. So think ideas versus things. And I know that sounds similar to extroversion and introversion, but there's a difference between being objective and subjective, and then being um, real and having ideals in a sense. Um, so yeah, like I said, since sensing is a focus on details in the real world, while intuition is a focus on uh, the big idea or the big picture, just ideas. Uh, so yeah, so like let's say you have intuition as a perceiving function. You're going to perceive things as a little bit. You're not going to perceive the details of a thing as much as you're going to perceive, depending on which function. But you're going to, as much as you're going to perceive just the idea of that. In a sense, I know that really sounds like a subjective impression of the object. That's not what I'm talking about. I'll go into more detail. It'll be way easier to understand in a bit. So yeah, judging functions, thinking and feeling. Uh, thinking is judging using uh, logical criteria, reason, like logical reasoning. Um, feeling is judging using value criteria. It's still kind of like logical, but it's based on like values. It's value. You're judging based on values, and then thinking is judging based on logic. I just think values versus logic. Not that there isn't any logic in values, but I mean,
Well, that there's no value in logic.
yeah. But it's just the easiest way to remember. My thumb just keeps like bleh. But yeah. So what you do is you combine these introversion and extroversion attitudes with all of the different functions, and then you get the cognitive functions. Then those names really need to be different because they can get confusing. That I'm like twisting up my words. Um, so we'll start with the perceiving functions, I guess. Extroverted sensing is objective. I'm going to start with intuition because it's easier for me to explain for some reason. Extroverted intuition is a focus on still like the object, still objective, because that's extroversion. And then you've got the ideals or ideas, which are intuition. Uh, and because extroversion is usually focused on many things, like all of the real world things, right? While introversion is going to be focused on like the one subjective impression of that thing, then extroverted intuition is going to be all of the different connections and possibilities of ideas in general. So, like, instead of, uh, I mean, okay, so say he's exploring, like, he's internet searching, he's not going to go onto one page and someone with extroverted intuition isn't going to go on. He isn't going to go on one page and then scroll through it and read the entire page and like delve really deep into the topic. He's going to read a little bit, skip and do something else, and just explore all the different connections or all the different possibilities. Like maybe something in the article reminds him of something else, and so he's like, "Oh, okay." So I'm gonna go and explore this idea because this seems more interesting to me at the moment. And he just kind of, moves along that way. And I know this. Did I get it right, by the
What
way?
about any? Yeah.
Yeah, extroverted intuition. Yeah, got my ENTP bud right here.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, yeah. Sorry about that. That was weird. I guess I ran out of video or something. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm sorry. Okay. So yeah. Now on to introverted intuition. Okay. Introverted intuition is yeah, it's like an ideal, like I said with extroverted intuition, except instead of focusing on the many different actual ideas or the many different concepts, you know, I'm blinking this eye or something. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Okay, yeah, but instead of focusing on the many, objective things, your focus is on the subjective impression of those things. So you take in all that information and sort of condense all of these different like kind of connections, or I'm gonna say I do that because I have introverted intuition. But I'm condensing all of these different objects or objective ideas into one subjective impression, so it's easier for me to understand. And I sort of feel like it's just easier for anyone to understand, even though it's just me that's doing this. But I mean, it makes it easier for me to explain things, definitely. But like with the Myers Briggs types, uh, like with, um, for instance, what I'm talking about right now, like, I mean, I'm condensing all this information that I know about this is condensed into one sort of formula or idea so I can just kind of understand the whole concept in general. And it helps me explain these things. So, I mean, that's a bonus, I guess. But that's introverted intuition. Let's see.
Wow.
Next, extroverted sensing. So again, objective criteria, the many. So the focus is on the many details and things, in the outside world. And this is really cool and interesting, I think. Uh, but yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm really tired. Uh, yeah, objective things and their sensory details. So like, the ball is red. I mean, this TV. I'm sorry, my house is pretty messy. This TV is black. Um, yeah, that kind of thing. Things have color. Uh, sounds, tastes, smells, just sensory details. Focuses on that. I'm droning on way too long. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try to wrap this up. Um, Introverted sensing is a focus on your objective impression of these sensory details, of these sensory things. Subjective impression, sorry. Your subjective impression of these sensory things. I don't. This is probably the most difficult perceiving function for me to explain. But their focus is on the introverted sensing focus is on, yes, like I said, subjective a subjective perception of these sensory details. And I think because of that, it usually relates very personally to the person. It's like, for whatever reason, very historical. It's they focus on the past, I guess. It has a pretty big focus on the past, I think. I don't know, this is just what I know. So yeah. Okay, now onto the judging functions. Thinking. So extroverted thinking is going to be objective, logical things. So like objective logic, objective, um, things like that. So that's very difficult for me to explain because I don't use it in a sense. I don't know how else to explain it other than saying that I don't use it. But I mean, like, I don't, you know, I I don't really understand it all that much. I mean, it's just sort of a thing. These things are how they are. I mean, from how I understand it, it's sort of this is how things are, and I'm going to use what I know of these things in the real world to get a step up. So the many different, okay, so it's the many different logical facts. So they don't focus on, okay, I was just getting it confused with introverted thinking just now. They don't focus on a system in a sense, a logical system, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it's a different, it's not a function that I really use super often as an INFJ. It focuses on the many different objective facts in the real world. This is how things are in the real world, but they're it's sort of like in math there's a theoretical probability and then there's actual probability, like experimental probability, and both actually are different. um but it usually lines up with the theory pretty well, the experimental probability does. um so yeah, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like it's I can relate it to experimental probability. This is how things end up actually being. The theoretical aspect doesn't really matter. It's the opposite for introverted thinking. Introverted thinking is focused on creating a subjective logical system based on objective things. So it's a subjective impression of these objective logical facts. So, like the math um, example, they take the experimental probability and turn it into a theory and say this is probably that this is probably going to happen um, like this next time. Like next time we try this is probably going to be very similar, and they create a theory for it in a sense, and they kind of work it into the system as to how it works. That's the best way I can explain it because it's kind of difficult for me. Um, Feeling, uh, extroverted feeling is a focus on the objective values, the many, you know, the focus on values. I guess it's used more in regards to people, I think, and interacting with people. So like objective values, objective human values, and you know, human interaction in a sense. I can't really. That is difficult for me to explain. I might go back to it in a little bit. So okay, so introverted feeling is going to be subjective values and a very large focus on so these individual people, right? These are all individual people, and they should have their own individual decisions about things and their own. It's a very big focus on the individual. Like, it's a subjective. Okay, the feeling I did not get a very good definition of. You can get much better definition by going to Michael Pierce's channel. I'm sure I linked his channel in the description of my first video that I put up. That was like my introduction, like my welcome to this channel, welcome to my new channel thing. Go to that video, go to the description. There should be a link to his channel, or maybe even just one of the videos in his channel. I don't know. If there isn't, tell me in the comments because I don't know. Just I guess look up other definitions if you don't like mine. I just can't. I have trouble defining things, but I figured I should make a video like this. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. Um, so yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. And I guess bye. I do not know how to end these things.